Yes, today we'll discuss about the spinal cord. Spinal cord is a part of nervous system, central nervous system. As you know, nervous system has two parts, peripheral and central. So this is part of central nervous system. If you make a diagram, you will find here you can see this is position of this is pons and this is medulla oblongata. This part is pons, this is medulla oblongata, and here this is at level of upper border of C1 vertebra. This is level of C1 vertebra, upper border of posterior arch of the C1 vertebra. So from here this is spinal cord. So length of spinal cord is about 45 centimeter in male, and in female it is 42 centimeter, and its weight is about 30 grams. It occupies about upper two-third part of vertebral canal, and it extends from upper border of posterior arch of C1 vertebra to lower border of, this is, here is position of, this is lower border of L1 vertebra. In case of adult, at time of birth, it extends, the spinal cord extends up to L3 vertebra. In adult, it lies at level of L1 vertebra, this part, and in case of infants and children, it lies at level of L3 vertebra. During intrauterine life, during third month of intrauterine life, the length of spinal cord is equal to length of vertebral canal. But due to differential growth after this third month of the intrauterine life, the level of spinal cord reaches L3 at time of the birth, and during adult life it reaches at the L1. So this is anterior view of the spinal cord. If you look at the transverse section of the spinal cord, this is transverse section of the spinal cord. It is elongated cylindrical structure. This is gray matter, and here this area is white matter. So this is gray matter. So this is H-shaped gray matter. This is position of the central canal. This is central canal. Here is posterior median sulcus. This is posterior median sulcus. This is posterior median sulcus, and anteriorly here is, this is anterior median fissure. So here is sulcus and this is fissure on anterior side. Here are roots of the spinal nerve. So this is the spinal nerve, and it has ventral root, dorsal root. This is dorsal root ganglia. This is spinal nerve. This is spinal nerve. This is spinal nerve, this is ventral root, this is dorsal root. Dorsal root has ganglia. This is here the side of the ganglia. This is side of the ganglia. First of all, we will discuss about the covering of the spinal cord. Covering of the spinal cord, that means meninges. So first of all, we will discuss about the meninges. These are the covering. In cranial cavity, there is cranial meninges, and here in spinal cord, in vertebral canal, there is this meninges is spinal meninges. So this meninges is spinal meninges. So we will discuss about the spinal meninges. There are three layers: dura mater, arachnoid, and pia. So these are three coverings of the spinal cord. And as you know, brain is covered by three layers: dura mater, arachnoid, and pia mater. Here there is slight difference in the dura mater. Here dura mater is only one layer, that is meningeal layer. This dura mater is made up of only one layer, that is meningeal layer. But in case of brain, the dura mater is of two layers, that is endosteal and meningeal. That is endosteal and meningeal. So here endosteal layer is not present. This is outermost layer, dura mater. Then next layer is arachnoid mater, and innermost layer is pia mater. So if you see pia mater, this is innermost layer which covers this This is pyometer. This is pyometer. This covering is pyometer. It is firmly adherent to spinal cord and root of the nerve. So this is pyometer. Innermost layer is pyometer. So this layer is pyometer. This is pyometer. Here, this pyometer forms an anterior side in the anterior median fissure. Here, these two layers joins and forms linea splendens. This is linea splendens. This is linea splendens. So it extends here. This is median fissure. So from here to here, this is linea splendens. Here, if you make another diagram of the spinal cord, this is C1 level and this is L1 level. This is spinal cord. There are two enlargements we will discuss later. This is median plane, this is median, anterior median fissure. This is anterior median fissure. So here is anterior median fissure. This is upper border of C1 vertebra, here is lower border of L1 vertebra. This lower part of spinal cord is conical. This is known as conus medullaris. This part is known as conus medullaris. This is conus medullaris. This is conus medullaris. Conus medullaris. So here, this pyometer, innermost layer, covers, and here it forms the linea splendens. So anteriorly it forms a linea splendens. And if you see on, this is position of the pyometer. This below the level of conus medullaris, this pyometer forms a card-like structure and extends up to coccyx, first piece of the coccyx. So this is first piece of the dorsum of the coccyx. So it extends to here. This is known as hilum terminate. So this pyometer here form the linea splendens. This is linea splendens, and this covering extend below the level of conus medullaris. This part. This is known as linea. This is known as hilum phylum Terminale. This is known as phylum Terminale. It extends from L1 to first piece of the coccyx and dorsal aspect. This is phylum Terminale. And the modification, here it forms a septum. This forms a septum. Here is fenestrated septum. Here is position of second layer from inner to outer surface, that is arachnoid. From arachnoid to this sulcus, posterior medial sulcus, it forms fenestrated subarachnoid septum. So this is subarachnoid septum, fenestrated subarachnoid septum. This is subarachnoid septum. This septum is fenestrated. It has small holes or small openings. And fourth most important thing, which forms the pyometer, that is ligamentum denticulatum. So ligamentum denticulatum, here you can see this is, suppose this is arachnoid. This is arachnoid, and here is durameter. So this is durameter, and next layer this is arachnoid matter, and innermost is pyometer. So this pyometer here on lateral side, it forms here it forms a process this is ligamentum denticulatum. So if you see here in this diagram, this is ligamentum denticulatum. Here is ligamentum denticulatum. This is ligamentum denticulatum. We have tooth-like process on the lateral side. This is ligamentum denticulatum. This is ligamentum denticulatum. Ligamentum denticulatum. This is ligamentum denticulatum, tooth-like process. This process here pierces arachnoid. Here is position of the arachnoid matter. This is arachnoid. It pierces with the arachnoid and attached with the dura matter. Attached with the dura matter. Here like dura matter. So it attached with the dura. So it pierces the arachnoid. PS arachnoid. So here you can see this is ligamentum denticulatum. So ligamentum denticulatum supports this and keep it in middle position, in midline position. So these are the ligamentum denticulatum. Number of ligamentum denticulatum is 21 pair. So 21 pair. First pair here just below, start from just below the foramen magnum, and last pair, this is last pair, lies between L1, T12 and L1 vertebra. It lies between T12 and L1 vertebra. So this is ligamentum denticulum. So you have seen there are 4 modifications or the 4 processes formed by pyometer. This pyometer is 4 processes. Linear splinterings, one part. Here is subarachnoid septum, another part, and another thing here is hilum terminale. This is hilum terminale. Next thing, ligamentum denticulum. So this is 1, this is 2, this is, here is 3, and this is 3rd, this is 4th. This is ligamentum denticulum 4. Ligamentum denticulum 4. Next layer is from this, there is arachnoid. Between this and this there is subarachnoid space. This is subarachnoid space. This subarachnoid space. This space contains CSF. This is subarachnoid space and contains CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. And this is continuous with this CSF of the brain. In lower part, below the foramen, below the conus medullaris, here you can see this subarachnoid space is large and roomy. This is known as lumbar cistern. This is known as lumbar cistern. Lumbar cistern. C-I-S-T-E-R-N. Lumbar cistern. Lumbar puncture for taking out the cerebrospinal fluid is done here between L3 and L4 vertebra. Between L3 and L4 vertebra. So this is arachnoid, and outermost layer is dura mater. And here, as you know, dura mater is the outermost layer. Here is dura mater. This is outermost layer, dura mater. This is dura mater here. So on the left side, this ligamentum denticulum attached with the dura mater. Attached with the dura mater here. And difference in cranial dura and spinal dura. Spinal dura has only one layer, that is meningeal layer, and in cranial dura there is 2 layers, that is endosteal and meningeal layer. And another thing, in cranial dura the meningeal layer forms 4. This is meningeal layer, this is endosteal layer, outer layer, here is meningeal layer. At some places form fold. These fold are known as forks, like forks cerebri, forks cerebelli. These folds are known as forks. This may be forks cerebelli, tentorium cerebelli, according to position. So we will discuss later. So this is cranial dura, and in spinal dura these folds are not present. So folds of meningeal layer is not present. Another thing, here you can see the space. This is dura mater. Outside the dura mater there is space. Outside of this dura mater there is space. This space is known as epidural space. Epidural space. Epidural space, in case of cranial meninges, this epidural space is not present. Here in epidural space, here some fat loose connective tissue and internal vertebral venous plexus is present. Internal vertebral venous plexus. So here internal vertebral venous plexus is present. Internal vertebral venous plexus is present. So this epidural space. Just below this pharyngeal end there is another space. So this is epidural space which contains loose connective tissue, fat and internal vertebral venous plexus. Internal vertebral venous plexus. This is pharyngeal area of dura mater. Deep to dura mater is subdural space. This subdural space contains thin film of fluid. Capillary like thin film of fluid is present here. And here below the arachnoid, subarachnoid space. The subarachnoid space contains cerebrospinal fluid, and this space is largest here below the conus medullaris. This is site where lumbar puncture is done for the taking out of the cerebrospinal fluid. So you have seen the spinal cord and meninges. Here again you see here this pia mater from here to this is coccyx. This is filum terminale. This is position. Here is position. This is level of S2 vertebra. Level of S2 vertebra. This is level of S2 vertebra. Here, this dura mater extend up to S2 vertebra. Arachnoid extend up to S2 vertebra. And this pia mater extend up to coccygeal first vertebra. So this from here to here, this is filum terminale, which is a part of pia mater. Above to this is filum terminale internus. The length of this is about 15 centimeter, and below to this is filum terminale externus. Length of this is 5 centimeter. So total length of the filum terminale is 20 centimeter. This is filum terminale, which is a part of terminal part of pia mater. So this is all about the meninges of the spinal cord. Thank you. Yes, now we'll discuss about the spinal cord part 2. External feature of the spinal cord. If you see spinal cord, here is position of the this is level of upper border of C1 vertebra. This is pons, this is medulla oblongata. From here, this level, spinal cord starts. This is anterior view of the spinal cord, and here is C1 level. From here, spinal cord starts. So this is anterior view, this is posterior view. The spinal cord extends from C1, upper border of the posterior arch of the C1 to lower border of, this is lower border of L1 vertebra. And this terminal part is known as conus medullaris. Conus medullaris. And here you can see this is in midline, this is anterior median sulcus. If you cut a transverse section of the spinal cord, you will find this is transverse section. This is transverse section of the spinal cord. This is grey matter here. This is grey matter, and here are white matter. This is anterior median fissure. This is anterior median fissure, and posteriorly here is sulcus. This is posterior median sulcus. This is posterior median sulcus. This is, and there are two another sulcus here, here, and here. This is the anterolateral. This is anterolateral. This is posterolateral. Anterolateral, posterolateral sulcus. So this is posterolateral sulcus. This is anterolateral sulcus. So here, from anterior median fissure to anterior lateral sulcus, this is anterior region. And from here to here, this is lateral region, and from posterior lateral sulcus to posterior median septum, this is posterior region. So by anterior median fissure and posterior median sulcus, it can be divided into right and left equal halves, and each half is again divided by two sulcus here, by two sulci, anterior and posterior, anterior lateral and posterior lateral sulcus into anterior, lateral and posterior regions. Here you can see, if you cut transverse section, you will find here it is about 1.25 centimeter. Here are two enlargements. This is cervical enlargement. This is cervical enlargement. And here is lumbosacral enlargement. This is lumbosacral enlargement. This is fusiform enlargement. This is present in the cervical region, from which area the brachial plexus arises. That means C5 to T1 level. This cervical enlargement is present in C5 to T1 level, and this lumbosacral enlargement is present from L2 to S3 spinal segment. Here, why this enlargement occurs? What is the reason behind this enlargement? Here you can see this is grey matter. In this region, in the area of the enlargement, here number of neurons is large. This large number of the neurons give supply to the muscles of the extremity. Muscles of the upper limb is supplied by brachial plexus. Muscles of the lower limb is supplied by lumbosacral plexus. So for giving the large number of musculature supplied, there is need of the more neurons. That's why here more neurons are present. So this causes the cervical and lumbosacral enlargement. And maximum dimension is about here at this level. This is C6 spinal segment level. Here 36 millimeter dimension is present. And here the maximum enlargement is at the level of S2 segment, S1, S1 segment, and here the maximum dimension is about 35 millimeter. If you see the spinal nerves, there are 31 pairs of the spinal nerve. 31 pairs of the spinal nerve arise from the spinal cord. As you know, there are 8 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, and 1 coccygeal nerve. Here, as you know, the length of the spinal cord is about 45 centimeter. In case of male, 45 centimeter in male, and in female it is about 42 centimeter in female. During intrauterine life, the length of vertebral canal, during 3rd month of intrauterine life, the length of vertebral canal is equal to length of spinal cord. But after this, at time of the birth, after this, due to differential growth of these two, vertebral canal and spinal cord, this terminal part of this lies at the level of L3 vertebra in infant and at the time of birth. And in adult, again due to differential growth, this reaches up to L1 vertebra. So in adult, spinal cord extends from C1 to L1 vertebra. So there are these number 31 pairs of the spinal nerve. In upper part, spinal nerves lie horizontally, and in lower part it is arranged vertically. Because here intervertebral foramen lies opposite to nerve like this here, but in lower part intervertebral foramen lies below. So here this arrangement is known as cauda equina. This is cauda equina in lower part. This horse tail like structure form the cauda equina. This is nerve fibers. These are nerves from the cauda equina. And this cauda equina contains L2, L3, L4, L5 and S1, S2, S3, S4, S5 and first coccygeal nerve. So here all lumbar except L1, all sacral and first coccygeal nerve form the cauda equina. If you make another diagram here, if you make it transversely arranged, and this is 3-dimensional diagram. Here you can see from here is this is posterior lateral sulcus, here lies anterior lateral sulcus. From anterior lateral sulcus and posterior lateral sulcus, ये small number of rootlets arise. These are the rootlets rises. Like this. These rootlets here join to form the one spinal nerve. This is one spinal nerve. This is one spinal nerve is formed by ventral and dorsal root, and each root has number of rootlets. Anterior rootlets are attached with the anterolateral sulcus and posterior rootlets attached with the posterolateral sulcus. And here on the dorsal side, this is ventral, this is dorsal side. Here is unipolar, pseudo-unipolar ganglion is present. Pseudo-unipolar ganglion is present in the dorsal root. And the area of this area of the spinal cord, this is area of the spinal cord which gives one pair of the spinal segment, one pair of the spinal nerve. This is one pair of the spinal nerve. This is the right and left spinal nerve. The area of the spinal cord which is attached with one pair of the spinal nerve is known as spinal segment. So in this diagram, this is one spinal segment. So as you know, there are 31 pairs of the spinal nerve. That's why there are 31 spinal segments. So spinal cord is divided into 31 spinal segments. So this is all about the external feature of the spinal cord. Thank you. Yes. Now we'll discuss about the spinal cord part 3. Part 3. In this part we'll discuss about the internal structure of the spinal cord. First of all, we'll make diagram. Here is pons, this is medulla oblongata, this is level of upper border of posterior arch of the C1. From here spinal cord start. This is spinal cord. This is cervical dilatation or cervical enlargement, cervical enlargement. Here is cervical enlargement. And this is lumbosacral enlargement. This cervical enlargement extends from C5 to T1 spinal segment, and this lumbosacral extends from L2 to SC spinal segment. If you put a transverse section and the cervical region, you will find this is cervical region. This is gray matter. Here is position of the central canal. So this is grey matter, and outside in the periphery this is white matter. Here is white matter and this is grey matter. Here you can see this grey matter is H shaped. Here is this part of H, horizontal part, which connect two vertical part. This is commissure. This is grey commissure. And these two are horns. This is ventral horn, this is dorsal horn. This is dorsal horn, this is ventral horn. And its shape, it is large and oval in shape. If you cut another section at the thoracic level, this was the transverse section at this level, at the cervical enlargement level. Here, if you cut section at the thoracic level, you will find it is more circular in comparison to this. So it is small and circular. This is grey matter. Here is central canal. Here you can see this grey matter has ventral horn, dorsal horn, and here is one lateral horn. This is lateral horn. So in this region, thoracolumbar region, that means from T1 to L2 segment, this lateral horn is present. So this lateral horn is present in the T1 to L2 region. If you cut a section at this lumbosacral region, the upper part of the lumbosacral region, you will find here again, this is ventral horn, this is dorsal horn, no lateral horn is present in this region. And if you compare the grey matter of these regions, you can see here this is dorsal horn, this is ventral horn. In ventral horn, here motor nerve nuclei is present here. And sensory fiber comes to here, motor fibers rise from here and goes through ventral root. So here the motor fibers are present. In cervical enlargement, this size is large. In lumbosacral enlargement, this size is large. A ventral horn is large or massive, because here from here cervical plexus arise, and this cervical plexus gives supply to the muscles of the upper limb. So Due to supply large number of the muscle, this area become large because here more nerve nuclei present for giving supply to the large number of the muscle. Same thing here. So here this is ventral horn is large because it gives supply to the muscles of the lower limb. And here, in this region, there are lateral horn. The lateral horn present in thorax T1 to L2 region. This is for the sympathetic outflow. In this region, sympathetic nerve nuclei is present here. And it passes through ventral root. Along with the motor nerve. So in T1 to L2 region, this lateral horn is present. So this is basic difference in the gray matter of the spinal cord at different level. Now white matter. Here you can see this is white matter. This area is white matter. White matter is white. Why? The reason behind this, because the nerve fibers here are myelinated nerve fibers. Nerve fibers are myelinated. These myelinated nerve fibers, due to these myelinated nerve fibers, this is known as white matter or white column. This is known as white column. White column. Here in the central nervous system, the nerves are myelinated by oligodendrocytes. These are the oligodendrocytes. So nerves are myelinated by oligodendrocytes, covered by oligodendrocytes. That's why it looks white, and this is white color. And as you know, in peripheral nervous system, the nerves are myelinated by Schwann cells. In peripheral nervous system, it is covered by Schwann cells. So this is the basic difference in white matter of the central nervous system and peripheral. In peripheral nervous system, it is covered by Schwann cells. Nerve is enriched by Schwann cells, are myelinated by Schwann cells, and in central nervous system, the nerves are myelinated by oligodendrocytes. That's why it is white column. And this white column is divided into three parts. Here is anterior medial sulcus, medial fissure, anterior lateral sulcus, posterior lateral sulcus, posterior medial fissure. So from here to here, this is anterior column, this is lateral column, and this is posterior column, posterior white column. So white column is peripheral part and is divided into three parts: anterior, lateral, and posterior. And basically, in anterior column, descending fibers are present mostly. In the posterior column, ascending fibers are present. In lateral, both ascending and descending fibers are present. If you compare from cervical to sacral region and coccygeal region of the white column comparatively large in number. White nerve fibers are large in number in cervical region, and gradually from above downward number decreases. So if you compare, this is white matter. If you compare white matter and grey matter, here white matter is less in comparison to grey matter. In comparison to here, white matter is less in comparison to grey matter. But if you compare this white matter to this white matter, so here white matter is in large. Why? Because ascending fibers, if you see ascending fibers, from ascending fibers, suppose this is here ascending fibers are present here in posterior column. Ascending fibers goes to upward, and gradually upper region some fibers are attached from here. As you go upward, more and more fibers are attached. So in this region, cervical region, if you compare, the number of ascending fibers are large in comparison to this. And same thing, number of descending fibers, if you compare here, number of descending fibers like this. So in this region, descending fibers, here you can see, are in less number, here slightly more, and here is more. So in lower part of the spinal cord, white matter is less in comparison to grey matter. And if you go from below upward, the number of white matter is increased. The area of the white matter is increased. Here you can see. These numbers are increased. So this is the transverse section at different level. Now we will discuss about the nuclei. Here if you see, here you have seen the white matter divided into anterior, lateral and posterior columns, and each column has numerous ascending or descending tract. Mostly anterior part have descending tracts, posteriorly here ascending tracts, and here ascending and descending both tracts are present. This is roughly you can see here. Detail we'll discuss later, ascending, descending, other fibers. Now if you see gray matter, this is gray matter. If you see the gray matter, this is gray matter. Of the one side, here is position of the central canal. This gray matter is divided into several nuclei, or gray matter has several nuclei, and for experiment purpose this gray matter is divided into 10 lamina. These are 10 lamina. These are known as rexid lamina. Rexid lamina. Here you can see there are 10 lamina. This is first, then there is second, there is third, there is fourth, this is fifth, this is sixth lamina. This is sixth. And this is seventh lamina. And here is eighth lamina. This is eighth lamina. There is ninth lamina. This is ninth lamina, and here is 10th lamina. This is 10th lamina. This is 10th lamina. This is 10th lamina. Around the central canal. If you compare this laminar pattern, and lamina rexid with nuclei, from here you can see, here is one nucleus. Here, this is posterior marginal nucleus. This is posterior marginal nucleus, and it is same as Rexil lamina 1 first. And another is substantia gelatinosa. This is substantia gelatinosa. This is substantia gelatinosa. This posterior marginal, it is relay station of the fast pin, like pin prick. And here substantia gelatinosa, it is station of the modification of the pain and temperature, and it is like the lamina 2. This is lamina 2, or this nucleus is corresponding with lamina 2. And there is, this is nucleus propriosus. This is nucleus propriosus. Nucleus propriosus. This is related to the lamina 3rd and 4th. This is corresponding with lamina 3rd and 4th. This nucleus propriosus. And here, second order neuron for the pain and temperature goes to spinothalamic tract. So this is nucleus propriosus, corresponding 3rd and 4th lamina. Here 5th and 6th lamina. Here 5th and 6th lamina. Here this side there is base of posterior column. This is base of posterior column is present. Here base of posterior column, and in this base of the posterior column lies here, and this base has visceral afferent nucleus. This is visceral afferent nuclei. This is visceral afferent nuclei. Visceral afferent nuclei, which is responsible for receiving afferent information, sensory information from the viscera, and it lies from T1 to L2 and S2 to S4 segment. Then after this, here is nucleus dorsalis. This is nucleus dorsalis. This nucleus dorsalis present at the level of C8 to L2 level. C8 to L2 level. This nucleus dorsalis or Clark's column. Clark column. This is also a Clark's column. So this extends from C8 to L2 spinal segment, and it is responsible for the sending fiber to posterior spinocerebellar tract. That is proprioceptive information goes to this. This is nucleus dorsalis or Clark's column. Clark's column. This nucleus dorsalis. And here, this is region of 7th lamina region, present Clark nucleus, and dorsal nucleus, and nucleus dorsalis. And also here, two nucleus are present. This is intermedio medial. This is intermedio lateral. This is intermedio medial, intermedio medial, and this is intermedio lateral. So this is intermedio lateral, intermedio medial. This intermedio lateral extend from L1, sorry, T1 to L2 segment and form sympathetic outflow. This is sympathetic outflow from T1 to L2 spinal segment, and this is for the parasympathetic outflow. This is intermediate medial and from S2 to S4, and efferent from this, these two goes through the ventral horn, and join to the nerve. So this is intermediate medial and intermediate lateral nuclei. This is ventral horn, this is intermediate, this is lateral horn, and here now ventral horn has medial, central and lateral nuclei. This medial, central and lateral nuclei. This is medial, this is central and lateral nuclei. The lateral nuclei, and as you know, this is ventral horn, from here motor fibers goes, so it is motor nuclei for the muscles of the limb, upper limb and lower limb. Muscles of the limb. This lateral nucleus enlarged in here. This is lateral nucleus. This is enlarged in the cervical enlargement area, and it is enlarged here in lumbosacral area, because from here it gives supply to the muscles of the upper limb, here it gives supply to the muscle of lower limb. So this is enlarged here. And medial, this medial gives supply to, and it has motor nuclei to the muscles of neck and trunk. So muscles of neck and trunk is supplied by this, neck and trunk. This is medial nucleus. Here, this is central nucleus. Central nucleus in spinal segment C1 to C5. C1 to C5, from C1 to C5. Here, from C1 to C5 nuclei for the spinal accessory nerve root. For the spinal accessory nerve, the nuclei is present here from C1 to C5. C1 to C5 segment gives supply to the spinal accessory nerve. As you know, in 11th, this is 11th cranial nerve. It has cranial part and spinal part. So spinal part lies from C1 to C5 spinal segment. Another thing, phrenic nerve. C3, this is C3 to C5. C3, C4, C5. C3 to C5 gives supply to musculature of the diaphragm. This is phrenic nerve. So from C3 to C5, phrenic nerve arises from this central nucleus. And lumbosacral nucleus is also present, but here extend from the L2 to S3. Lumbosacral nucleus, L2 to S3, but its function is not clear. So here you can see, if you make, there are three nuclei. The central region, C1 to C5, spinal accessory, C3 to C5, phrenic nerve, L2 to S3, lumbosacral nuclei, its function is unknown. And again, medial is also divided into ventral and dorsal region. If you compare to this, so this region is related to the 8th and 9th lamina, Here is 10th lamina. This is 10th lamina. This is known as, here interneurons are present, and as you know, there are the gray ramus communicants. So interneurons are present here, and one another thing, this is known as substantia gelatinosa centralis. This is known as substantia gelatinosa centralis. So these are two patterns. Here you have seen from anterior to posterior, from anterior to posterior, posterior to anterior side, nuclei. In grey matter, nuclei are arranged like this, and you have seen their functions. And if it divided in the lamina form, then this is known as rexate lamina, and from first to 10th lamina you have seen like this. And which nuclei, if you correlate with these, which nuclei related to which lamina. So this is all about the spinal cord part 3. Thank you.